It's Friday, August 20th, and this is now on H&N.
New at noon, the University of Hawaii announces there will be no fans at any UH sports for the foreseeable future.
Look at where the cases are being detected.
The number of COVID cases among Hawaii public school students and staff grows.
We'll use every resource necessary to carry out the mission at hand and bring to safety American citizens and our Afghan allies.
President Biden calls what's happening in Afghanistan one of the largest, most difficult airlifts in history.
Linda's still heading pretty much right at us at this point.
These stories plus Linda weakens but could still bring heavy showers. We've got the details coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. You got Jonathan and Ashley here coming to you from the H&N Digital Center. The state's COVID surge continues.
That's right. The state health department is reporting 845 new COVID infections today, along with 4 more deaths. The latest fatalities are 2 men on Oahu, one in his 50s and one in his 70s, and 2 men on Maui, one in his 50s and one in his 70s, and 2 men on Oahu, one in his 60s and one in his 80s. Health officials say there have been 15 COVID-related deaths reported in the last 7 days. Now, the breakdown of cases by island shows the Big Island with 162 cases, Kauai with 26, Maui 97, Molokai 3, Oahu reporting 548 cases. Out of state, 9 people diagnosed. Now, DOH says 11 more people have been hospitalized with COVID. And this just in, sports fans will not be allowed at UH season opening events because of the COVID surge and overwhelmed hospitals. The city and county of Honolulu notified the University of Hawaii of its decision, which applies to all UH Manoa fall sports, including football, women's volleyball, and women's soccer. UH Athletics Director Dave Matlin said he's disappointed but understands it's in the best interest of public safety. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi says it's a fluid situation and conditions will be reevaluated in the coming weeks. Now, there will be a ticket refund policy released later, and season ticket holders will be contacted about their options.
And as that case count continues to rise, DOE reports more COVID infections among staff and students. I want to turn it over now to Lacey Denise with those details.
The State Department of Education reported a total of 383 confirmed COVID cases among staff and students between August 14th and August 19th. Now, this number of infections is up from 325 confirmed positive cases across public schools last week. Officials said that of the cases reported this week, 276 of those infected with the virus were not on a campus. Meanwhile, there were 90 student cases and 17 staff cases during the reporting week in which infected individuals were on campus. DOE said schools responded, quote, quickly to these cases, identifying and notifying close contacts, directing individuals to quarantine, and disinfecting facilities as necessary. Despite the rise in cases, education officials said the DOE's mitigation strategies, including staying home when sick, are working to help prevent the spread of COVID at schools. Here's what state epidemiologist Sarah KEMBLE had to say.
We always talk closely with the administration of the school, look at where the cases are being detected, and look at what's been implemented to prevent transmission. In situations where transmission appears to be unchecked, those are the situations where we talk about the potential for closing a classroom or even a school.
To see the full list of COVID cases from this week at affected public schools, head to hawaiinewsnow.com. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
News from the Big Island to talk about. Mayor Roth has asked the governor's permission to close all county beach parks, do everything except for exercise. He's still waiting on an answer regarding that. Meanwhile, I want to play out a portion of an interview we just did with the mayor.
I visited the Hilo Hospital, the North Hawaii Community Hospital, and the Kona Hospital. All of them are experiencing the same things. The ERs, have a lot of people. They've been overrun in the ERs. all of those hospitals talked about incidences where they had people that were waiting in the ER for not just hours, but for days, waiting to get into, an ICU or a hospital room. We've seen that, people who are in the ICU rooms predominantly are people who have COVID. Almost all of those people, if not all the people in the ICU rooms on our island have not been vaccinated. Most of the people in our hospitals for COVID have not been vaccinated. And so we see the stress that the doctors, the nurses, and everyone in healthcare has been going through. We have someone in my office whose father-in-law in Honolulu had to wait in an ambulance for an hour yesterday. And we know that when people are in really bad condition here, they generally go to Honolulu. Honolulu's hospitals are full. Our hospitals are full. And so at this time, with the situation that we're having, it's just not safe.
On Oahu, the city is extending the free COVID testing program at the Honolulu Airport Lab through August 28th. No walk-ins are allowed, though. You must register online and present a QR code when you get there. Results take about 6 hours. Just look for a link to sign up at hawaiiNewsNow.com. Now for an update on some potential severe weather from what's left of Linda, here's Billy V.
Thank you very much. We are tracking tropical or post-tropical storm Linda. And once again, Linda is in the Pacific within 900 miles of Hilo, Hawaii. And let's go and show you how this is going to go as far as the tracking. Once again, in the next couple of days, we can see Sunday by 2 a.m. it starts to get near Hawaii Island and Maui County. The winds right now at 40 miles per hour, gusts up to 50 miles per hour, and it's moving at 17 miles per hour. At Sunday, early in the morning, still at 40 miles per hour, it will cross over Honolulu and Maui County. So Sunday on the eastern half, and then Monday over on the western half of the Hawaiian Islands. That's going to bring us some possible windward and actually possible heavy showers and possible flash flooding. We'll show you more of the effects on your forecast coming up in just a couple of moments right here on This Is Now.
New today, President Joe Biden has a pledge to Americans still trapped in Afghanistan, saying, quote, "We'll get you home." Biden's comments at a White House news conference today comes as the U.S. government struggles to ramp up a massive airlift, clearing Americans and vulnerable Afghans through the Kabul airport, rescuing them from the Taliban takeover of the country.
And now we have almost 6,000 troops on the ground, including the 82nd Airborne, providing runway security, the Army 10th Mountain Division standing guard around the airport, and the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit assisting the civilian departure.
We've got team coverage on this still developing story. I want to turn it over to Clarissa Wards, who's on the ground in Kabul at the airport, talking to those lucky enough to have a seat on a military aircraft out of the country.
I just want to stop and ask this young man, hi, how are you? What's your name?
My name is Darman.
Darman, how long have you been waiting here?
I've been waiting for 2 days. Yesterday since 3 a.m.
Yesterday since 3 a.m.?
Yes.
Tell me what the situation was like trying to get into the airport.
It was really busy and a lot of people were just fighting and trying to make way for themselves. But we pushed through. We made the final cut.
Was it scary?
Yeah, it was pretty scary.
Were the Taliban there?
Yeah, but they're all the way in the back though. Yeah, they were in the back and they weren't saying anything to people there. They're just
letting them pass. And let me ask you this, I'm seeing babies here. Yeah. This is, I mean, how is it for people bringing their children through this? It's a nightmare.
I mean, yeah, they can't really put them like on the floor. They have to carry them the whole time because they ran over by people. They might get stepped on. So there was a lot of babies there. People were like fainting quite often. So
fainting.
Yeah.
All right, Darman, thank you very much. And I have to say, we also saw on our journey a lot of babies in this hot, hot sun. We spoke to one soldier who told us that yesterday people were actually throwing their babies. There was such a crush of people that women were throwing their babies to the soldiers, desperately trying to get them out to freedom. And one soldier actually caught the baby. He managed to go and find the family and return the baby, but it gives you a sense of just the sheer desperation and the sheer chaos. Let's keep walking over here. There's a lot of military personnel on the ground here, and they're working flat out, trying to get as many people to safety as possible. But it's not easy because every step along the way, there are bottlenecks. We stopped at multiple checkpoints. We were having to.
You need to come over here. I'm going to put you on a new flight. It'll be a new flight, okay?
Okay. So we're actually just been told that we are getting on a flight. We are certainly some of the very lucky ones here. Others, as you heard from that young man, have been waiting for 2 days. Others we saw getting turned around, sent back, told you don't have the appropriate paperwork. And there's no question, everybody here is doing their best, but it's not clear if it's fast enough, if enough people can get out, and how much longer they have to finish this massive operation. Clarissa Ward, CNN, Kabul.
The Transair cargo plane that crashed into the ocean off Oahu's leeward coast last month will be brought to the surface. The National Transportation Safety Board says the airline's insurance company is working with a contractor to recover pieces of the wreckage off Kalailoa this fall. The Boeing 737 went down on July 2nd after both engines failed. The 2 pilots on board both survived. Meanwhile, at Honolulu's airport, a runway was closed after a Transair plane experienced problems. We're gathering more information on what happened, but we're being told the cargo plane may have landed with some of its gear up. We'll pass on any details as we get them. More coronavirus news now. We're getting a closer look at some of Oahu's backup equipment in case the morgue runs out of room. Allison Blair has more on the refrigerated containers on standby.
Officials say the hope is to never have to use these mortuary trailers, but if the time does come when it's needed, they say they'll have a space to compassionately store human remains.
Well, this is a day and a topic that we really wish we weren't having to talk about.
It's a purchase usually only made in times of disaster.
Massive tsunami, hurricanes, things like this. When we expect or anticipate massive loss of life. You know, sadly, COVID-19 is a disaster.
Last year, the Honolulu Fire Department spent about $330,000 of its CARES funding to buy 3 mortuary trailers. They arrived on Oahu in January.
Each of these refrigerated containers has the ability to house 50 of our loved ones with dignity and respect.
We asked exactly how much mortuary storage there is on Oahu and what's currently available. The agency wasn't able to provide exact figures, but a spokesman responded, "At this time, I can write with confidence that there are no mortuary capacity issues facing the state." While the trailers have yet to be deployed, the lead investigator at the medical examiner's office says they've come close to needing them.
It's been tight at times.
Initially, COVID restrictions prompted funeral delays. With the lockdown now lifted, folks are getting back to their normal routines.
People are still drowning. People are still dying from cancer and naturally and heart attacks. So all of those events are happening regardless of COVID.
Hospitals are now basically overwhelmed.
With the number of active COVID infections in Hawaii surpassing 8,600, many facilities no longer have space in their intensive care units and emergency rooms.
They're right at the edge of not being able to continue to care for people with COVID and any other illness.
He says it's up to the community to turn things around.
We want to see people get vaccinated. We don't want to see anybody end up here. We just do not. And it's not too late.
In Honolulu, Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
All right, we want to get a check of your rest of your weather conditions. Let's take you outside first. It's still looking gorgeous out there right now for the start of your weekend. Now, keep in mind, things could change. Let's turn it over to Billy V once again with more on that.
Thank you very much. Let's get you your forecast. First of all, we'll talk about the waves. 4 to 6 feet over on the east-facing shore. That's Linda energy right there from the storm Linda that is approaching the state of Hawaii. And that's kind of dangerous surf. It's messy, it's inconsistent, and if you're not experienced, it's dangerous. So you might want to check with lifeguards before going out on any of the beaches on the east-facing shore for the next couple of days. South-facing shores, we've got a small reinforcing swells that are happening that are going to keep surfers happy. It'll keep the waves from being flat. on the south-facing shore. West side 3 to 5, north shore 1 to 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rain and wind models today. Trade wind weather, so windward and Malka showers drifting leeward at times. But notice here as we get into Saturday and more into Sunday, there is the storm Linda as it's starting to make its move towards the Hawaiian Islands. So already on Sunday, Hawaii Island, Maui County, a little bit of Oahu. But as we get this over into Monday, look at that. Most of the state all is going to get some kind of rainfall. Now, I talked to Bob Ballard from the National Weather Service. He says that if this tracks a little bit northward of the state, then it'll be better for us, less wind, less rain. If this tracks more southward, we could be on the stronger side of the storm, which means we could get, once again, possibility of flash flooding and also heavy showers. As always, get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device, or at hawaiinewsnow.com.
A big construction project on the North Shore is wrapping up ahead of schedule. Casey Lund drove up to the WAIALUA Bridge to check it out, but found out someone crashed into the construction site. He filed this report.
The bridge actually opened up just after 8 o'clock this morning. The Department of Design and Construction crews putting the finishing touches and cleaning things up. But as we learned when we got up here much earlier this morning, that wasn't soon enough for one driver leaving WAIALUA. Just after 4 o'clock this morning, the security guard posted at this then construction site said a white Honda drove through the fencing here at a very high rate of speed. The vehicle broke through the strong chain link barrier, even dragging some of the fence along for about 60 yards before making a getaway, leaving behind only a couple of pieces of evidence. But HPD and the city's Department of Design and Construction said that wouldn't hinder today's reopening. Welcome news for North Shore residents.
We were screaming. All those guys were super stoked too, so we thank them.
Sarah Bruner and her kids used to walk this bridge every morning. When it closed after the heavy rains in March, it took a toll, and not just on their routine.
It was torture. It was really hard on our family, and we live right across the high school, so all the traffic was backed up past the high school. So people would zoom past our house with the kids playing. So it was really rough.
Well, the biggest thing was for the school and the kids and the parents that had to go around and sit in traffic and not be able to, from this side that had to go around. I think they suffered the most.
It wasn't just that the bridge was closed. In an attempt to alleviate traffic problems and make things safer, DOT installed a four-way stop at Thompson Corner. Many residents say that made traffic worse. DOT tells us it hasn't been removed just yet, but they are reevaluating now that the bridge is back open.
I had to come down and see, and I saw it was open, and I said, okay, I have to walk across.
Commuters and walkers like Debbie Kelly and her dog Nala say they're grateful the project wrapped up early. They were expecting it to take almost 2 years. For them, it means more freedom, and that's just what Debbie decided to rename this very important structure.
Kind of represents freedom, after being restricted, as we take things for granted. So I just renamed it the Freedom Bridge.
So yes, despite some early morning chaos, it was all smiles, shakas, and horn honks here at the WAIALUA Bridge. Reporting in WAIALUA, I'm Casey Lund. Now back to you.
Native coral ecosystems in the PAPAHANAUMOKUAKEA Marine National Monument are being threatened by invasive species. That's become a big problem in a short amount of time. Researchers recently completed a 20-day expedition to the northwestern Hawaiian Islands and were alarmed to see how many of the monument's reefs are being impacted by a mysterious algae. We had a chat with researcher Brian Hawk about this.
Well, the biggest thing is that it's new to science. So it's never been recorded anywhere before. There's no record of it in scientific publications or journals or research books, any of that kind of stuff. So nobody knows what this stuff is. So the first thing is it's hard to call it alien or invasive because you don't know where it comes from. So until you have an original location of where this is native to, it's termed cryptogenic or nuisance algae, because the term invasive species and that kind of thing implies that it's an alien species. And since it's new to science and you don't know where it's from, it's kind of a terminology thing. But that's kind of the basis of it. What makes it a problem is that it can outcompete all the other native species. So it's dominating the habitat, and it's kind of creating a phase shift from a coral-dominated ecosystem to an algae-dominated ecosystem. So you have these reefs that were originally covered in coral that are now getting overgrown with this alga. And as it overgrows, it can form very thick mats. It grows up to, maybe 6 to 8 inches thick and just smothers kind of everything underneath it. So it blocks off the light, cuts off water flow, and eventually kills everything underneath it. So it's kind of changing the habitat up there, killing all the coral, replacing it with this algae. And we haven't been able to find any herbivorous fish or invertebrates that seem to like to eat it. I did notice some kala or like unicorn fish or like a type of surgeonfish that were like kind of nibbling at it, like huge schools of them, but they were spitting it out. I didn't see any of them actually consuming it. And Pearl and Hermes Atoll historically has one of the highest counts of herbivorous fish, definitely in the main Hawaiian Islands, but almost in the whole Hawaiian archipelago. So it's not like there's not fish there. It's not like Oahu or Maui where it's been overfished. It's that this alga is either unpalatable to them, they don't like it, maybe it has something in it that smells or tastes bad or is toxic. That's what we need further research on to see why nothing's eating it. So that's why it's bad. It's taking over coral reef habitat, overgrowing everything, smothering it, and replacing that with a coral dominated ecosystem is getting replaced with an algae dominated ecosystem.
All right, guys, big breaking news. It's Friday. Oh my goodness, what a long week. But we still want to talk about what the internet is talking about, and this is interesting. Check this out. Elon Musk says Tesla is creating a humanoid robot. He says it will have a screen where the person's face would be. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, right on the robot's head. It will perform boring, repetitive, and dangerous work. So I'm going to get replaced, Ashley. No! Musk says the prototype could be available next year. But keep in mind.
Look at that thing.
Yeah, I know. So strange. Musk has a long history of overpromising sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll have to just wait and see how that shapes up.
I don't understand why everyone's creating robots.
I don't know. It's a little creepy.
I don't dig it. Okay, some entertainment news everyone's talking about. So the recently named Jeopardy host, Mike Richards, has already stepped down. The stunning announcement comes just 2 days after a website called The Ringer exposed sexist and racist comments Richards made on a podcast in 2013 and 2014. Now, Richards, who's also the show's executive producer, has apologized that his past has cast negative attention on the beloved show Jeopardy. Just last week, Sony announced he would be hosting the show, but because of this, he will stay on as the show's executive producer. So Jeopardy now planning to resume guest hosts for the time being as they looked for his replacement.
All-time dream job of mine is to be a game show host. And I'll tell you why, because you're doing nothing but making people happy for the most part, at least when they win.
Do you have a specific game show?
Price is Right, no doubt.
All right.
No doubt. Look out, Drew Carey.
It's coming for you, Drew.
Yep.
And Ed Sheeran fans out there, he's getting ready to release some new music. The British singer-songwriter announced his 4th studio album, Equals. Now, the record features 14 songs, including its lead single, Bad Habits, and an upcoming single called Visiting Hours. Now, Sheeran shared he actually began recording this album 4 years ago. It's slated to be unveiled on October 29th.
Look forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
And look forward to the weekend, guys. Hope you stay dry. Keep up to date with all your severe weather alerts with H&N's digital platforms. We'll be back here on Monday. You can also check out our podcast wherever you find your podcast. Just search Hawaii News Now. Aloha, everyone.